إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So carrying on then with Al-Aqeedah Al-Wasitiyyah of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. We're on the section now, فصل في المعية وبيان الجمع بينها وبيان علو الله واستوائه على عرشه. We spoke previously about the ma'iyah of Allah, that Allah is with the fact that Allah is with the creation. But then we also spoke about the highness of Allah, that Allah is above the creation and that Allah rose above the throne. So how do we understand Allah being above the throne, Allah being the Most High, but then also Allah being with the creation? That is this section coming up now. سبق أن مما يدخل في الإيمان بالله الإيمان بأسمائه وصفاته، ومن ذلك الإيمان بعلو الله واستوائه على عرشه والإيمان بمعيته. وفي هذا الفصل بين المؤلف رحمه الله الجمع بين العلو والمعية. So we've already mentioned previously that the names and attributes of Allah, they come into Iman in Allah, Iman in His names and attributes. And from those names and attributes is the fact that Allah is the Most High. The highness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Allah rose above the throne, but also to believe that Allah is with the creation. So how do we combine between those two? Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said, وَقَدْ دَخَلَ فِيمَا ذَكَرْنَاهُ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ الإيمان بما أخبر الله به في كتابه وتواتر عن رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأجمع عليه سلف الأمة من أنه سبحانه فوق سماواته على عرشه علي على خلقه. So he said, from what we have mentioned regarding Iman in Allah, what enters into that is Iman in everything that Allah informed us about in His book, and that which has been mentioned clearly from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that the Salaf, they were united upon. What is that? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the seven heavens, above all of the heavens, above His throne, the most high and lofty above His creation. That is evidenced in the Quran, in the Sunnah, and by the consensus of the Salaf of this Ummah, that Allah is the most high above all of His creation. So Shaykh al-Islam said, من أنه سبحانه فوق سماواته على عرشه علي على خلقه. تقدم لنا أن علو الله عز وجل نوعان. That we have already learned that the highness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is of two types. uluwu sifah and uluwu that. The highness of Allah in terms of His attributes, that they are the most lofty and perfect and complete of attributes, and the highness of Allah in regards to His essence, that He Himself is the most high and above. وأن علو الذات دل عليه الكتاب والسنة والإجماع والعقل والفطرة وكذلك علو الصفة. And all of this is evidenced in the Quran, in the Sunnah, and by consensus, and even by logic and by your innate nature. فَالْكِتَابُ مَمْلُوءٌ مِّن ذَلِكَ. The Book of Allah is full of evidences regarding the fact that Allah is the Most High above the creation. تَارَةً بِالتَّصْرِيحِ بِالْفَوْقِيَّةِ. Sometimes Allah mentions clearly being above. وَتَارَةً بِالتَّصْرِيحِ بِالْعُلُوِّ. And sometimes by clearly telling us that He is the Most High. وَتَارَةً بِالتَّصْرِيحِ بِأَنَّهُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. And sometimes by clearly mentioning that He is above the heavens. وَتَارَةً بِنُزُولِ الْأَشْيَاءِ مِنْ عِنْدِهِ. And sometimes by the mentioning of affairs descending from Him. Because if things descend from Him, that indicates that He is above, and then the revelation and affairs descend from Him. وَتَارَةً بِصُعُودِهَا إِلَيْهِ وَنَحْوِ ذَلِكَ. And sometimes by mentioning that things ascend up to Him. So all of those evidences indicate Allah is the Most High and above. وَأَمَّا الْإِجْمَاعِ. And the Sunnah, of course, also has many ahadith. وَأَمَّا الْإِجْمَاعِ. As for the consensus, فَقَدْ أَجْمَعَ السَّلَفُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. The Salaf, they are united and agreed upon that Allah is above and the Most High. وَطَرِيقُ الْعِلْمِ بِإِجْمَاعِهِمْ عَدَمُ نَقْلِ ضِدِّ مَا جَاءَ فِي الْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ. How do we know that the Salaf were united upon this fact that Allah is above and the Most High? How do we know they were united upon this fact? Because there is no narration from them at all in opposition to it. There is no narration from them at all in opposition to this. فإنهم كانوا يقرؤون القرآن وينقلون الأخبار ويعلمون معانيها. They used to recite the Quran and they used to transmit that information and they used to learn the meanings of it. وَلَمَّا لَمْ يُنْقَلْ عَنْهُمْ مَا يُخَالِفُ ظَاهِرَهَا عُلِمَ أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْتَقِدُونَ سِوَاهُ. And so they were the ones who learned and studied the Quran and transmitted the meanings of the Quran, and they knew and learnt the meanings of the Quran. And despite all of that, we do not hear any narration from them at all opposing the fact that Allah is above and that Allah is the Most High. Nothing opposing the apparent texts, the apparent ayat of the Quran. And so this indicates that their Aqeedah was not in opposition to what is in the Quran and the apparent meanings of the ayat at all. Their Aqeedah was in line with that Allah is above and the Most High. وَأَنَّهُمْ مُجْمِعُونَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. And so it becomes known to us as well that they were therefore united upon that. They were united upon that fact, upon that Aqeedah. وهذا طريق حسن لإثبات إجماعهم فاستمسك به ينفعك في مواطن كثيرة. And this, as Shaykh al-Uthaymeen says, is a very good way to understand these affairs. A very good way of deriving this understanding and recognizing this point. The fact that you have ayat in the Quran, you have ahadith in the Sunnah, all indicating a particular point. The companions learnt that Quran and they learnt those ayat and they used to narrate them and teach them and transmit them. So they had a detailed knowledge of all of that. And yet, despite that detailed knowledge of all of that, never once do we see that they ever opposed those ayat in any way or had any belief or narration opposing them in any way. So in that case, you can be sure that they were upon unity, upon the meanings of those ayat as they are. So the ayat tell us Allah is above and Allah is the Most High. The Salaf were upon understanding of those ayat and they never mentioned any explanation besides what is apparent in them, indicating they were agreed upon that explanation. They were agreed upon that understanding what is apparent in the ayat, that Allah is above and the Most High. So you can use that in many different points and many different evidences, many different issues, that the Salaf, if you cannot find them disagreeing or opposing a particular point at all in any way, then it indicates they were agreed upon the clear and apparent meaning of that particular point or those ayat. And that is clear. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah are united upon their Aqeedah. One Aqeedah, one clear methodology. It is not like the people of innovation who differ and have differences and separation over even affairs of Aqeedah. Rather, Ahlul Sunnah are united upon one clear Aqeedah, one clear pathway, one clear methodology. That is the methodology of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you should not therefore fall into the traps of the deviants who try to demonstrate or try to portray that the companions differed in Aqeedah. The companions did not differ in Aqeedah. They were united upon one Aqeedah. They were united upon one methodology, clear as can be, the methodology of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the people of innovation want to try to make it look like there were differences between the companions on Aqeedah. Why do they want to try to show you that? Why are they so bothered about trying to show you that companions differed in Aqeedah even though they didn't? Because if they can somehow prove to you that even the companions used to differ in Aqeedah and these affairs, even the companions used to differ, then they can say, so it's not a big deal if we differ. It's not a big deal if you want to have one particular Aqeedah and you want to believe certain things, you can believe that. And my Aqeedah, I believe slightly different. And you have another Aqeedah slightly different, you can have that too. We shouldn't say anything against each other. We are all upon Islam. We all say La ilaha illallah, even if your Aqeedah is a bit different, your Aqeedah is a bit different, your Aqeedah is a bit different. They say no problem. Even the companions used to differ in Aqeedah. So they are trying to make that point to be able to justify their manhaj, to be able to justify their methodology of bringing all the people of innovation and the deviants together and saying, but we're all Muslim. We all say La ilaha illallah. And that's why the Ikhwan al-Muslimin and those deviant types of groups, they unite upon the minimum. Ahlul Sunnah, we are united upon the haqq, the absolute truth in Aqeedah, in every affair. But they unite upon the minimum. What is the minimum? An Ikhwaniya, Tablighi, whatever they might be. What is the minimum all of them generally agree upon? La ilaha illallah. You say to the Tablighi, what do you say? La ilaha, of course, La ilaha illallah. You say to the Ikhwani, he will say, of course, La ilaha illallah. You go to the Khariji, he will say, La ilaha illallah. You go to any deviant, ask them about the Shahada, they will say, what are you talking? Of course, La ilaha illallah. Will they not? Absolutely. So then they say, we are all upon the same methodology. Do we not all say La ilaha illallah? So we are united then. That is how they make their unity, upon the minimum. The minimum is what? We all say La ilaha illallah. What is the understanding and the practice of it that you have? Some of them, they say La ilaha illallah but still go do tawaf around the graves. Others, they say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and yet they still rebel against the rulers and fight against them and spill the blood of the Muslims. So when it comes to all the affairs afterwards, they are split. But they need to make some type of unity, and the only unity they can make then is on the minimum level, saying, but we all say La ilaha illallah. So they want to try to justify their manhaj, their methodology of uniting the people of innovation, apparently, even though in reality they are not united. This one has this Aqeedah, he has his Aqeedah, he has his methodology, his manhaj, they're all split. But they unite upon that minimum for their goals and their objectives. Ahlul Sunnah, the companions, were not united like that. They were united upon the absolute haqq, upon the absolute straight path. But this type of deviancy, it exists amongst them now. Yasir Qadi and Al-Maghrib and all those people, they are the types who will say to you, but even the companions, this and that. And it's no big deal. You want to believe slightly like this and you want to believe slightly like that. There's room for interpretation. They want to make it open to increase their numbers as much as they can. Ahlul Sunnah, it is not like that. It is upon one straight methodology and pathway. And that is this methodology, this Aqeedah we are learning. Somebody comes along and wants to oppose this Aqeedah. Now we are not going to say no. We are not going to say to him, yes, that's okay. We are going to say to him, no. The correct Aqeedah is X, Y, and Z. These are the evidences. Somebody comes along now and says he wants to believe in his Aqeedah, Allah is everywhere. Allah is not above, Allah is everywhere. We are not going to say that's okay, come, we'll be united. Rather, we want goodness for him as we want goodness for ourselves. We are happy that Allah guided us to the correct Aqeedah, so we desire to guide him to the correct Aqeedah too. Not say to him, that's okay, you can believe that. Rather, we're going to explain to him, this is the correct Aqeedah. Allah is above the creation. Allah is not everywhere like the Wahdatul Wujud and the innovators, that the creation and the creator are all one thing, all mixed in together, creator, creation. Rather, Allah is separate and distinct, ba'inun, from His creation, above His creation. And so that is what the Salaf were united upon and their consensus was upon. And then the fact that Allah is above, we believe Allah is the Most High and above all of the creation. But also we believe that Allah is with the creation. So how can we combine between those 2 points? قوله وهو سبحانه معهم أينما كانوا يعلم ما هم عاملون. that Allah is above and separate from the creation, but He is with the creation and knows what they are doing. So now this could cause confusion to some. How is Allah above, separate from the creation, but at the same time with the creation and knows what we are doing? So that's what He's going to explain here. وَهَذَا مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ وَهُوَ الْإِيمَانِ بِمَعِيَّتِهِ لِخَلْقِهِ. So we have Iman that Allah is with the creation. وَقَدْ سَبَقَ أَنَّ مَعِيَّةَ اللَّهِ تَنْقَسِمُ إِلَى عَامَّةٍ وَخَاصَّةٍ وَخَاصَّةُ الْخَاصَّةِ. You remember we already touched upon this topic a few months back about Allah being with the creation, that there are three types of that. There are three meanings of Allah being with the creation. One is the general meaning of Allah being with the creation. The general meaning of Allah being with the creation. In that meaning, تشمل كل أحد من مؤمن وكافر وبر وفاجر. That includes everyone. Muslim, kafir, good doer, wrong doer. Everybody is included in the general concept of Allah being with the creation. As Allah said, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. That Allah is with you wherever you are. And Allah is all aware of what you do. So Allah, with His seeing and His knowledge and His hearing, Allah is all aware of everyone in His creation and what they are doing and what their actions are. The second type of Allah being with the creation is a specific type. And the specific type is like what Allah said in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. That Allah is with those who have taqwa. Allah is with those who have taqwa, who have piety and fear Allah and are obedient to Allah and they are righteous, muhsinun. Allah's with them. That is a more specific type of Allah being with those types of people. The first one was general, including the kuffar, including the wrongdoers. But this second type is more specific to the good doers, to the pious, to the believers. Then there is a third type, which is the specific of the specific, even more specific. And that is, as Allah said in the Quran regarding Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, قَالَ لَا تَخَافَا إِنَّنِي مَعَكُمَا أَسْمَعُ وَأَرَى. And as Allah said regarding the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا, as the Messenger said regarding that. For example, when Allah said to Musa and Harun, do not fear, indeed I am with you. I hear and I see. That is a specific example. Allah telling Harun and Musa alayhim salam, do not fear, I am with you. And regarding the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when they were in the cave, the Messenger mentioned, Inna Allah ma'ana. Indeed, Allah is with us. Again, a very specific example. So you have the very general meaning of Allah being with His creation. You have the specific meaning of Allah being with His creation. And then you have the specific of the specific, even more specific, of Allah being with His creation. So who can tell us what is the meaning of the general concept of Allah being with the creation? That includes who? The believers and the non-believers, the good doers and the wrongdoers. The second type, the specific concept of Allah being with the creation includes just the righteous and the people of taqwa, the good doers, the believers, the righteous, the people of taqwa. And then the most specific examples of Allah being with the creation are, for example, the example of Musa alayhi salam, Harun alayhi salam, that's one example. The example of with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and there are other examples from other prophets and messengers. So 3 levels of Allah being with the creation. وسبق أن هذه المعية حقيقية وأن, and we mentioned that this concept of Allah being with the creation, it is a concept in reality. It is a concept in reality. وأن من مقتضى المعية العامة العلم والسمع والبصر والقدرة والسلطان وغير ذلك. But what are the different meanings of these levels? The general concept of Allah being with the creation. The general concept, the meaning of that is what? That Allah is with all of His creation. That Allah sees all of His creation. That Allah hears everything that is occurring within that creation. That Allah has ability and power over all of that creation. Those are, and has knowledge over all of that creation. Those are the meanings of the general concept of Allah being with all of the creation. Allah has knowledge of them all. Allah has seeing of them all, hearing of them all, has the details of them all. Kuffar, Muslims, good doers, wrongdoers. That is the general concept of Allah being with all of the creation. What is the specific concept of Allah being with the creation? It includes all of the things from the general, but then there are more. What are the more? What is the addition? That Allah is happy with you, and that would therefore indicate, if Allah is happy with you, then it also indicates Allah is in your aid and assistance and support. That is one of the meanings of the specific type of the concept of Allah being with the creation. In the specific type, and then even more in the most specific type, that Allah is in your aid. Allah is in your assistance. Allah is in your support. That is just like the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ فِي عَوْنِ الْعَبْدِ مَا كَانَ الْعَبْدُ فِي عَوْنِ أَخِيهِ. That Allah is in the help and the assistance of a servant as long as you are in the help and assistance and aid of your brother. That Allah will be in your assistance as long as you are in the assistance of your brother. In that same hadith it mentions that Allah will remove difficulties from you on the day of judgment if you remove the difficulty from your brother in this world. Go and help your brother, console him if something has happened. Be in the aid and support and help of your brothers. And it mentions in the hadith, Allah will remove difficulties from you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So here that is the specific meaning, at-ta'yeed, that Allah will aid you and support you and be in your assistance. So now there are some examples in the Quran where all of this, and you remember when we did it last time, as Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen gave that example. You remember the example about the call, when you ring somebody and you say to them, I am with you. Imagine now, where are you from, your country originally? Nigeria. So the brother goes off, flies off to Nigeria, and some difficulty happens in Nigeria. Maybe crashes his car. MashaAllah, some of the cars in Nigeria, they're 60 years old, they're still running. No problem. Here, miskin car, 20 years old, finishes. But over there, MashaAllah, and Yemen, these places, they're different types of cars, I think. So imagine something happens and your car breaks down, he's very sad, so we ring the brother. We say, Akhi, don't worry about it. We'll help you, we'll send you some money to buy a new car. Relax, we are with you. Are we with him? Nigeria, how many hours in the aeroplane? We are sitting here in Sheffield. How are we saying to him, we are with you? Meaning that we are in your support, we'll help you, we're with you. You have our support, you have our help, don't worry. So we can use that phrase in the language, I am with you, and you may not physically be with that person. It could indicate meanings of help and aid and support. That is possible. So here, كما جمع بين ذلك في قوله هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام. So he is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. ثم استوى على العرش. Then he rose above the throne. يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها. He knows what goes into the earth and what comes out from it. وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها. And what comes down from the skies he knows, and what goes up to it he knows. وهو معكم أينما كنتم. And he is with you wherever you are. والله بما تعملون بصير. And Allah is all aware and knowing and seeing of what you do. Notice in this section of the Quran then, in the first part Allah tells us He created the heavens and the earth. ثم استوى على عرشه. Then He rose above His throne. And we know that the throne is the highest thing of all of creation. Because in the hadith it mentions the throne is the what of creation? The throne is the ceiling of creation. And then Allah tells us He rose above that. So He rose above all of this creation. But then in the same section, in the same ayah, Allah then tells us, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ. But He is with you. On the one hand, Allah is above all of the creation, above His throne. But then Allah also tells us in the same ayah, but He is with you wherever you are. So we know that these two concepts both exist. These two attributes, they both exist. Allah is above and separate from the creation, but He is with the creation also. And so we affirm both of those, and we do not make a contradiction, because there cannot possibly be any contradiction in the speech of Allah. There cannot possibly be any contradiction in the speech of Allah. Impossible. So we affirm that and we affirm this. So Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen, he says here that now you have the affirmation of Allah being above His throne, and you have the affirmation of Allah being with the creation. So how would we combine between these two? How then? How, if somebody now says to you, how? These mubtadi'ah, the people of innovation who are misguided upon these points, these are the kinds of things they want to come and debate with you with all the time. These are the kinds of things they want to argue with you about. So when they come to you now and say, you guys, you Salafis don't know what Aqeedah is. How can you say Allah is above and then Allah tells us in the Quran He is with us? How do you explain that? So what are you going to do? How are you going to explain it now? So here we have three possible methods. Take a note of this. This is the reality, the basis of knowledge. These are basics of Aqeedah. You know, when some deviant comes up to you now and they want to debate you and they want to put doubts in your mind, you need to know these answers. It is not just screaming and shouting. You need to have knowledge and evidence. So here now there are 3 points you could mention here. الأول أنه ذكر استواءه على العرش ثم قال وهو معكم أينما كنتم وَإِذَا جَمَعَ اللَّهُ لِنَفْسِهِ بَيْنَ وَصْفَيْنِ فَإِنَّنَا نَعْلَمُ عِلْمَ الْيَقِينِ أَنَّهُمَا لَا يَتَنَاقَضَانِ. That is what we already just mentioned. The first point is, the first thing to clarify to any deviant or any misguided individual who just doesn't understand, bringing up these doubts, the first thing you clarify to him is, brother, you understand that in the Quran there cannot possibly be any contradiction. That is the first point. You agree with him. You agree with me, surely there is no contradiction in the Quran. If Allah has told us He is above, He is above. If Allah has told us He is with us, He is with us. There cannot possibly be any contradiction in the Quran. Because if they contradicted each other, then that would mean we have two parts of the Quran that cannot be understood together. There's a contradiction in the Quran, and that cannot be the case. إِذْ الْمُتَنَاقِضَيْنِ لَا يَجْتَمِعَانِ وَلَا يَرْتَفِعَانِ. When you have two things opposing each other, they cannot come together. You cannot bring harmony between two opposites. They're opposing each other. And the only way, when you have an absolute contradiction between two things and there is no way to bring harmony between them, then the only solution to get any harmony would be to let one go. You would have to remove one. If there's an absolute contradiction, no way to combine, then the only solution you would have left is to get rid of one. And that is impossible when it comes to the Quran. We're not going to say this ayah, that's it, neglect it, remove it from the Mus'haf. A'udhu billah. Impossible to say that. فلا بد من وجود أحدهما وانتفاء الثاني ولو كان هناك تناقض لزم أن يكون أول الآية مكذبا لآخرها أو بالعكس. So if you were going to start saying there's contradiction in the Quran, then you would end up having to say that the first part of this ayah, where Allah tells us He is above, contradicts the end of the ayah when Allah tells us He is with you. The same ayah you're going to claim is contradicting itself. And that is impossible. So the first thing to note with all of these discussions, that you highlight to the person that there is certainly no contradiction in the Quran. Secondly, أنه قد يجتمع العلو والمعية في المخلوقات كما سيذكره المؤلف في قول الناس ما زلنا نسير والقمر معنا. Being above and being with, aboveness and withness can occur within creation. And if that is a concept that can occur within creation, then easily it can occur for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can it occur in creation that something is above you but it's also with you? They have an example they mention sometimes, Nasiru wal qamaru ma'ana, that we were walking and the moon was with us all night. We walked, we were traveling during the night, and the moon was with us all night. So the moon was with you. It was right there in the sky. Wherever you travel, it's right there in the sky. It's with you wherever you go. So the moon is with you wherever you go. Yet at the same time it is above you. The moon is above you, but you can say that we were walking all night and the moon was with us all night. Because no matter where you go, just look up and the moon is right there still. A full moon night. So that is possible in creation. You may use the concept of something being with you but being above you, and it completely applies. Yes, the moon is above you. Yes, the moon was with you all night. The third explanation. So that second explanation is basically saying, if that is something which can easily be understood in creation, then even easier for it to be understood regarding the Creator. Thirdly, low furida. Let's say now they keep arguing, they say, no, it's impossible. That example of the moon doesn't work. It's impossible. You cannot be above and also be with. Impossible. Imagine they go down that line and they simply will not agree. They say it is impossible to be with someone but also be above that individual. Then we say to them, okay. This is the third argument. You say to them, okay, maybe you're right then. Maybe it is impossible for something to be above but also to be with. If I agree with you that is impossible, then we are talking about which realm? That is impossible in which realm? We're talking about this dunya. As far as we can see in our logic and our intellect, that we cannot see something in creation being with you but also being above you. So in the creational sense, perhaps okay, maybe then, all right. Maybe that can't happen in the creation. Maybe that is something we do not witness or see in the creation. But does that necessitate, therefore, that what we are restricted by in creation is going to be a restriction for Allah the Creator? No, you cannot say that. So just because something we think is impossible in creation does not necessitate it is impossible for Allah. So the third argument, لو فرض تعارضهما بالنسبة للمخلوق لم يلزم ذلك بالنسبة للخالق لأن الله ليس كمثله شيء. So even if we were to agree that okay, it's not possible to be with and to be above in the creation, we cannot understand that occurring or see that. No problem. But that does not necessitate that this restriction is then applicable to Allah. Allah is the Creator. What we may perceive as a restriction and an impossibility for us does not necessitate it to be the case for Allah. So, three possible explanations there. The first one was that there is no contradiction. You clarify to them there is no contradiction. And you know, these kinds of things, one of the best books to understand how to answer doubts of the people. When the deviants, they bring up points and they bring up issues, the people who are especially astray when it comes to Aqeedah, the Deobandis and these kinds of people, they bring doubts to you. One of the best books in understanding how to reply, not necessarily even the exact answers, but the methodology, your manhaj in how you reply to people, how you explain things, is which book? Kashf al-Shubuhat. Kashf al-Shubuhat of Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab clarifies and details how to do that. We ever did it here or not? So that is one of the best books for that issue of dealing with the people of deviation and their doubts. How do you respond to their doubts? And that is common that they will do that. Some of you might know in Leeds a few years ago. In Leeds, I have classes there. And you know, Leeds, the city of Leeds, it is full of Deobandis. And they are upon a deviated Aqeedah. They are not upon the Aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And a few years ago, some of them, because they basically control Leeds, all of Leeds, the mosques, they are mostly upon that Aqeedah. So now we were there, a small group of Salafis teaching Aqeedah. We were doing at that time Lum'atul I'tiqad, with the explanation of Shaykh Zayd al-Madkhali. And so the Deobandis were getting more and more upset that these people, these Salafis, are here teaching this Aqeedah, which they believe is a batil Aqeedah, mashallah. So they were getting more and more upset. So one day, they sent, their leaders sent one of their normal brothers to come to the class. So we were doing the class and he came and sat down, and at the end of the class, he said, I have some questions. So he began asking some questions and he started saying there is contradictions in the explanation of Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen on Al-Aqeedah Al-Wasitiyyah compared to Al-Aqeedah Al-Tahawiyah. There are contradictions, there is this, there is that. Al-Uthaymeen makes mistakes and he doesn't know, and Ibn Abil Izz, he has the correct understanding, and he started making all of these points. So then I recall saying to him, what are the exact points of contradiction between the Aqeedah of Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen and the Aqeedah of Al-Imam Al-Tahawi? Because by this stage he had already told us that he is alim. He said he is an alim. Somebody asked him, who are you? He said, I am an alim from the graduates of Dar al-Ulum. He said, I'm an alim. You know, they call themselves alim. Like a sheikh or scholar after they do 6 years. He said, I'm an alim. I graduated from Dar al-Ulum. I said, Alhamdulillah, then you're superior to me because I don't call myself an alim. Good for you. So if you're an alim, then tell me then, what are the problems in Al-Wasitiyyah? Give me the original Arabic quotes from Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen. He said, no, I can't do that. I said, in Arabic, you're an alim. You're an alim, just tell me the Arabic quotes. I speak Arabic, you speak Arabic, you're an alim. Just tell me the Arabic quotes exactly as they are in Wasitiyyah and let's discuss it. He said, no, you're trying to embarrass me and this and that. I said, well, what do you mean? You said you're an alim. I never said I'm alim, miskin. You alim, mashallah. But then anyway, what happened was the next week they came back. And the next week they came back with a big group of them. Like 20 or 30 of them. They came back and they were waiting outside of the hall where we used to give the classes. So as we walked out, and they recorded it. And as we walked out, they began saying, we want to debate you. We want to debate and let's go sit down in the house. And we're going to debate you on this and that. This was on a Sunday. You know, my Leeds class is on a Sunday after this class, 8:30 p.m. And I have classes on Sunday from 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. all day. All day. This is now my 7th lecture of the day. So by the time I get to Leeds, 9 o'clock at night, you started at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to go and sit with anybody in their house now to debate. I want to go home and go to sleep. I said to Mahi, who told you I'm going to come to your house and sit with you and debate with you? Who told you I'm going to come and sit with you and debate with you? All we said to your person last week was, if there are any contradictions, give us the references. Give me the references. Tell me where the contradictions are. And to this day, you still don't have them. And you're here, we want to debate, and we want to do this, and we want to do that. Again, I said to them, Ikhwan, I have the books at home. Give me the references. I'll go and check if there are any contradictions. And anyway, then it became a commotion and everything. And I left. I went home. This was 10 o'clock at night. I'm not standing there wasting my time. I went home. And then afterwards, they were recording. So they said afterwards, look, he ran away. The Sheikh ran away. I went in my car, went home. 10 o'clock at night. He ran away from the debate. And but then one funny thing they said was, on the video, he said, but you know what? I don't know the exact words he used, but it was along the lines of, he said, but you know what? This Sheikh, he has good manners. I like his manners though. I thought, subhanAllah, you're talking about manners and you want to debate about Aqeedah. He has good manners though. I think he has good manners, mashallah. Anyway, Masakin, this is what it is. And they went around Leeds to the different halls that we were hiring to do classes to tell them, don't give your hall to these people. And they had us kicked out from one hall. We went to another one. In 1 week, they went to the owner. The next week, he kicked us out from there. Then we went to a third hall. Even the third hall manager is Deobandi. But alhamdulillah, one of our Salafi brothers has known him for 40 years, since primary school. So he has good relationship with him. They probably tried to tell him to get rid of us too, but alhamdulillah, he did not. This is what they do in the end. These are their tactics. They control Leeds. How many mosques do they have in Leeds? We Masakin Salafis, 20, 30, 40, 50 of us like this, in one small hall, a hall that we hire, and they are scared because they understand this Aqeedah is spreading between the people. The true Aqeedah is spreading. And I heard an audio, some of you speak Urdu maybe. In Urdu, I heard an audio of one of them. Let me see if I can remember the words. They were I don't know, maybe some of you speak Urdu good, but there was an Urdu audio where one of them said, whole families are becoming Salafi because of them. We have to do something. Something, let me, if I can remember, you speak Urdu, anybody here or not? Huh? How you would say, like they said, whole families are becoming Salafi. Something along the lines of, Pure khandan Salafi ban rahe hain, or something like this. I don't speak it very well myself. But along those lines, if you understand, any of you, that whole families are entering into this Salafiyah because of them. And we are one small hall we hire out once a week. They have 10, 20 mosques in Leeds. Look at how scared they are of this correct Aqeedah being taught. This correct Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah being taught with the evidences. They know that when you teach this Aqeedah with the evidences, with the proofs, that the people they accept, and the people are accepting, and they were accepting, and they knew it. And I heard this audio, it was from one of their gatherings, somebody sent it, from their gatherings, it was a lecture they were doing or something, and he said, so many families are accepting this Aqeedah they are teaching, our people are going to them, we have to stop them. And so they went around with this tactic of theirs to prevent us from getting a booking. They cannot refute us upon evidences, and they want to go and block us from getting a booking to be able to deliver the lectures. So it is very important to learn this Aqeedah with detail and with evidences. The Salafi needs to be upright and strong on these topics. This is how you're going to be able to clarify the truth to the people. You're going to be able to clarify the truth to those who come with deviance, to those who come with doubts, to those who come with misguidances. As Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab said, a person who walks around without knowledge is like a person walking around without a shield. Without a shield, without any defense, if somebody comes and attacks you, easily they can attack you. But if you walk around with a shield, with defense, armor, then they come and attack you, it's much more difficult to do anything. He said the one without knowledge is walking around without any armor, without any shield. But the one with knowledge is walking around with armor and a shield. And so this knowledge, that is what differentiates the Sunni from the Mubtadi'. The innovators, the deviants, they do not have knowledge. All of these celebrities on YouTube, all of these celebrity da'is, they do entertainment. They do not teach knowledge. I challenge you to find any of them, all these celebrities on YouTube, have ever taught Wasitiyyah from beginning to end. Have ever sat there to teach Kitab al-Tawheed from beginning to end. Have ever sat there teaching 3 fundamental principles, the 6 principles, beginning to end. For them, these things are boring. How can you sit there for a year teaching Wasitiyyah, a year teaching Kitab al-Tawheed? Boring for them. They want action. They want entertainment to bring the numbers in. But the Salafi understands the path to knowledge is lengthy. It is a long path to knowledge. And especially in our circumstances, we have 1 class a week here now. Some mosques, maybe they have 2 or 3 classes a week. It is not like somebody is a full-time student of knowledge in Medina where you have 25 hours minimum a week. And most students have extracurricular. You end up with 30 hours a week, 35 hours a week. Here you're going to do 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week. It is very important you focus on those studies. Very important you focus on that 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week. That you make this the priority of your week. And I always tell this to all the brothers. You make the priority of your week the lesson. When you're thinking about your week, don't say the priority, I need to get the shopping. Khalas, I'm going to have to miss the class on Sunday, I've got to go get the shopping. Get the shopping on a different day. Don't say, but there was that problem with the car, I need to go to the mechanic, he said he's free on a Sunday. So what? Go take it on a Monday and wait for a little bit at the garage. Make your priority the knowledge. Make your priority the classes, the studies. Bit by bit, week by week, you start to learn more and more. and you start to see the reality of knowledge. Do not make other things your priority and make knowledge your secondary thing. Make knowledge the priority. Sundays, it's the class. Anything else, fix it in other times. You have the full week, and then you have this one hour slot on a Sunday. You have to do all of your other things on this 1 hour. That is from the deception of the shaitan. Focus and strive with knowledge. And bring your families and your relatives, bring them into the da'wah, bring them into studying the correct aqeedah. So many people, when they learn these things and they start looking into aqeedah, it's the first time in their lives they've learnt these things. The first time in their lives they've heard of these kinds of things. On these points of aqeedah, about Allah, and Allah being above, and Allah descending in the last day. All these things, first time in their lives, they properly hear about these things regarding Allah. So it's very important to focus on that, very important to focus on knowledge. So that is, those are 3 points the Shaykh mentions. We haven't even got to the rest yet. There's more explanation yet, gonna explain how you can understand Allah is above and Allah is with you. That is basically only the introduction yet. So we'll get on to the rest of it from next time, inshallah ta'ala, next week. And we always target and aim for 6:30 p.m. 6:30 p.m. is always the target. I will try to get here every week as soon as possible, close as possible to 6:30, inshallah. So that's when we'll continue next week then. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala